Well, I wonder what sort of emotion this picture draws out for you. A picture depicting the time in ancient Israel in the book of Leviticus when they were carrying out the sacrificial system, the sacrifices that God had commanded them to do. Well, it's a time I think we need to look back on if we're going to understand the New Testament, what's going on in the New Testament, if we understand what's happening with the death of Christ on the cross. And so I just want to share a few thoughts around one of the sacrifices that they made in ancient Israel. It's referred to as the fellowship offering, and it's referred specifically in the book of Leviticus in chapters 3 and chapter 7. So I'm going to read a few verses from both those chapters now, and then maybe share a few thoughts on what's going on and how that's relevant for us today. So chapter 3 of the book of Leviticus, it's titled the fellowship offering, and it begins with, "If your offering is a fellowship offering, and you offer an animal from the herd, whether male or female, you're to present before the Lord an animal without defect. You're to lay your hand on the head of your offering and slaughter it at the entrance to the tent of meeting. Then Aaron's sons, the priests, shall splash the blood against the sides of the altar. From the fellowship offering, you're to bring a food offering to the Lord, the internal organs and all the fat that is connected to them, both kidneys with the fat on them near the loins, and the long lobe of the liver, which you will remove with the kidneys. Then Aaron's sons are to burn it on the altar on top of the burnt offering that is lying on the burning wood. It is a food offering, an aroma pleasing to the Lord." And then jumping across to chapter 7, it continues to describe the process, the reasoning behind the fellowship offering. From verse 11 of chapter 7 in Leviticus, it says, "These are the regulations for the fellowship offering anyone may present to the Lord. If they offer it as an expression of thankfulness, then along with this thank offering they're to offer thick loaves made without yeast and with olive oil mixed in, thin loaves made without yeast and brushed with oil, and thick loaves of the finest flour, well kneaded and with oil mixed in. Along with their fellowship offering of thanksgiving, they're to present an offering with thick loaves of bread made with yeast. They're to bring one of each kind as an offering, a contribution to the Lord. It belongs to the priest who splashes the blood of the fellowship offering against the altar. The meat of their fellowship offering of thanksgiving must be eaten on the day it is offered. They must leave none of it till the morning. If, however, their offering is the result of a vow or is a free will offering, the sacrifice shall be eaten on the day they offer it, but anything left over may be eaten on the next day." So what's going on here is the question, I guess. It's an offering. It's called the fellowship or the thanks offering. It involves cattle, sheep or goats. There's no birds involved, and we'll comment on that in a few moments. It's something which chapter 3 of Leviticus says is on top. It's to be laid on top of the burnt offering, so it's not an offering for the sin of the person bringing the sacrifice or for the people. It's an offering which is on top of that. That's already taken place, the burnt offerings, the offering which was made for their sin. This is a thank offering. It's an offering made in thankfulness, maybe for a life event, or chapter 7 goes on to say that it could be a free will offering. It's just an offering of praise to God, the one who has rescued them at this stage from Egypt. It's not a holy offering, so it's not something which is dedicated to the Lord or to the priests. It is shared, so the Lord gets the fat, the priests get the breast, and the people get the rest. But just coming back briefly to the lack of provision for people to bring birds or pigeons or doves, this is really an offering which is not compulsory, and it's certainly an offering which, like the offering for atonement, the burnt offering, is needed to be made by everybody. And that's why with that offering there's a provision for the offering to be a bird, because the poorest people couldn't afford cattle or sheep or goats, and so provision was made for a bird to be offered, and there's no such provision here. And in chapter 7 we see the fact that all of this offering is to be eaten on the day that it's made, and that's a significant point which we'll come back to in a second. So in summary, it's all the people together. Those who could brought sacrifices. They gave these sacrifices to the priests, who gave it in turn to the people. Everybody was fed, everybody was satisfied. This happened regularly. Happy days. But I wonder if it sounds familiar. If we jump forward to the New Testament and some words we've been looking at, a section from the book of Acts that we've been looking at in recent weeks, in Acts chapter 2, verse 42, titled The Fellowship of the Believers. And so that reads, "They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favour of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved." And so again, in summary, all the people were together. They met regularly. Those who could brought things which they offered and gave to the apostles. The apostles then distributed this to the people who had need, to those who had need. Everybody was satisfied. It happened regularly. Happy days. And so it's just a continuation, isn't it, of what God had put together in the book of Leviticus as a way of blessing those who had little through the provision of those who had much. And it's always God's intention. This is something where it's important to look back at these sort of passages in the book of Leviticus to understand that this has always been God's heart. And Paul continues the thinking in 2 Corinthians chapter 8, where he talks about the haves giving for the sake of the haves not. In that case, the haves in Corinth giving for the sake of the impoverished believers in Jerusalem. And so this fellowship or thank offering was something which in Leviticus was pointing forward, not only to the way the people of God were to operate at that time in thankfulness for what God had done for them, but actually is pointed forward to the church in the book of Acts and for us today. God has provided the sacrifice for our sins himself now. We don't have to concern ourselves with bringing a sacrifice for our sins as the people of Israel did regularly for the atonement of their sins. God has provided that. And so the fellowship offering in the Old Testament, in the book of Leviticus, was really an offering of thankfulness, of praise to God who'd already done that. And for us, the fellowship offering, the thanks offering, the things we bring to God in thankfulness are a recognition really of all that God has provided for us, the greatest sacrifice really that God himself has provided so that our sins might be forgiven, so that we might have fellowship with God himself, so that we might have fellowship with one another. And so the book of Leviticus, if we look back at it, is a very practical book. God is laying out the law there. He's laying out some of these sacrificial systems so that those who could gave and those who couldn't received. And so everyone was satisfied, as we see at the start of the book of Acts. So that's why we need to read Leviticus, because that way we understand that there's no difference between the God of the Old Testament and the God of the New. This was God's heart from the very beginning, that his people who have been called by his name, who have been brought into fellowship with him, should bless one another as a part of their thankfulness to God.